lovely day! Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there is also a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by The Plain Truth, Sleeping Warrior, Jose, and Arwin. Good to have you all.
Hola.
Good afternoon.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning,
Arwin,
good afternoon.
Do you want
to
take your mic out your mouth, Arwin? You're very poppy.
Poppy?
Pop, pop, pop.
Pop, 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 pop. That's my engine.
And good morning, ladies in the chat.
Good morning, ladies in the chat.
Yep.
There are any ladies in the chat, are there? Let's just have a quick look.
Matt
I'll
Taylor's in
shout
chat.
out the only... No, I don't think so. No ladies. Is Saucy London a lady? Maybe there is.
Betty Van Velsen.
Who, sorry?
Betty.
Is Betty in the chat?
Yeah. Shout
Oh,
out to
well, there
Betty
you go.
Van Velsen.
Betty Van Velsen. Big shout out to you.
Shout out to
There
Betty.
you go. And all those NASA astronauts ladies listening to the show.
You assume are listening to the show. They're
All
definitely
the
not in chat.
ladies from the other dimension tuning in to what humanity's up to now with their crazy fantasies.
What I'll do at some point over the next couple of hours is I'm going to, if I can, figure out how to do it, generate a temporary link to Betty's Discord server, which is called Flat Earth Debate, Science versus Pseudoscience. So what I'll do is I'll stick a temporary link in there, so it won't give you permanent, it'll get you onto the site, and then hopefully, if you're not an evil, nasty troll, you'll get approved. If not, you won't. But it'll give you a day pass, so you can at least get to Betty's site. So I'll do that at some point. Regardless of where I do it in the show, it will be in the info box. So if you're watching this on the re-upload, just click the link in the info box. It'll last for the next 24 hours. So if not, just request one, send me an email or something, and I'll send you a Discord link, providing you're a friendly. But that's Betty Van Velsen's Discord server, which is called Flat Earth Debate, Science versus Pseudoscience. So yeah, check that out when I publish the link at some stage.
There are some very interesting characters in that Discord servers. Yeah.
In that particular one, or just on Discord in general?
In that one, in general, I mean, all nice people, but there are some interesting characters like P. Mars, for example. You know, so he doesn't participate, but I see he joined. I think it was yesterday. So yeah, haven't talked to him, but I know he's there. You know, like a Voltor in the background.
Fair enough. Yeah, I saw that P. Mars was in there, and chatted to Betty about him this morning. And I advised her to go and chat to him about some of the security issues on Discord, because P. Mars is very well acquainted with Discord, unlike me.
Housekeeping.
Yeah.
Indeed, housekeeping. Any signs of curvature, gentlemen?
No.
Not
No.
on the Earth.
What about axial rotation?
Curvature in our lives? Yeah, sure. Every now and then.
Earth-based. Arwin, always Earth-based. So axial rotation of the Earth-based variety. Any signs of that?
How about space-time curve?
If you want to try and show me space-time curvature, Arwin, I'm more than happy to
Just have to look
have a look at
really
it.
carefully.
Let's have a little look at it, shall we?
It's everywhere around you.
It's everywhere,
It's
is
in
it?
Google.
Self-evident, is it, this bending of space-time?
Well, according to Einstein, it should be.
Oh. So not self-evident to me, just self-evident according to the words of Einstein. I see. I'm not going to take that as a bending of anything. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
But yeah, what about axial rotation?
No.
Nope.
Not of the Earth, maybe of the ether.
Distance to the sun?
There is no distance to the sun.
Well said.
No.
Scientific evidence of gravity? Any signs of that?
No.
Signs? Yeah. But I'm not there yet.
No.
What about the fact that globe heads think that Earth, which obviously has gas pressure, we're breathing it, is in the vacuum of space? Now that would necessitate a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. So have we seen any of that? Have we seen gas pressure without a container?
No.
Maybe in the gas of space, but certainly not in the vacuum of space.
I'm trying to prove space as a nonsense. Hi, Billy Wazza. How you doing?
We can hear you, but we can't hear your voice.
Hello, Billy.
You go on mute. For now.
Oh no, that's actually Travis's background noise.
The plain truth. You can mute yourself when you're not talking. It's very,
Okay.
very noisy.
Hey, Gleam. Is that Gleam?
Hello.
Hello, good to have you.
Sorry.
No worries, Travis. I kicked out somebody because I thought it was them with background noise, therefore mic open but not saying anything, so I'm sorry to the guy with the NASA logo, or NADA logo.
Look at it.
So where were we? Any evidence of gas pressure without a container?
Never.
No.
No. Fart. When a fart leaves your body.
Yeah.
Oh, it will leave the container. Sorry.
Well,
The
it's
body's the
still
container.
suffering the effects of entropy. So I'm not going to count farts as proof of space, unfortunately, Jose. Sorry.
Sorry, I tried. I
tried.
read that in the chat a few days ago, so I just.
It's worth a try. What about a molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Yes. At the
Are you playing some
presupposed
video or
spherical
something,
Earth.
Anthony?
Sure.
Someone's playing a video or something in the background. Is that you, Anthony?
Yes.
Can,
up.
Can you mute yourself if you're going to watch a video? Thank you.
Somebody whispering in your ear, Anthony.
Nah, the TV.
It's alright, I think I muted him. So, no signs of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, then?
Yes,
Oh, there
but
is.
not in the real world.
Just only at the High Everett
Horizon.
event, rather.
Luke Skywalker.
You hear us, Event Horizon? We'll give him a second to sort his mic out. What about any evidence of the presupposition itself? Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius, gentlemen?
Evidence. No, just presupposition.
No.
There's no
No.
real lead to it, except for the globe of the heavens, if you take that physically literal. Other than that, no, nothing really. It's always the other way around. It's always working towards that radius, using the radius, assuming it, presupposing it.
Yeah,
There's not a lot of evidence of actual, no direct signs of it.
You gotta call it like that philosopher. What's his name? The Celestial Sphere. Oh, it's not a
Call it
philosopher.
the globe
Sorry.
of the heavens, if I like.
Well, Tim was in the other after the show the other day, and he basically said that Darwin cites his globe of the heavens as the celestial sphere, and I said you can't prove it's a sphere. And one of the issues that came up as a result of that conversation was that even Mick West admits that the stars appear to slow down as they get towards the horizon. You can interpret that in two different ways. You can, sorry.
I was hearing the Skype call thingy.
Yeah, someone's getting a call, don't worry. Not me.
Mick West on his website says that the stars appear to slow down as they get towards the horizon. Now, that's interpreted by Mick West and heliocentric priest bum boys as refraction, but it can also be explained as stars going off into the distance, changing its speed as it gets further away from us. So instead of it being like a vertical adjustment because of refraction, it's a horizontal adjustment because it's getting further away. So I just want to mention that to people because you can interpret the stars slowing down towards the horizon 2 ways, not just one.
You know what is funny about this flat Earth debate last couple of weeks? That ourselves, the members of the panel, which we are pretty much tagging ourselves as flat earthers, are bringing the arguments in behalf of the bowlers because they're not coming in. We mentioning the sunsets and the rotation on the stars, all that stuff. They don't bring it to the table, so we gotta bring it ourselves. We're not gonna argue too much and try to defend it because it's all bullshit. No, they have the chance to come in and defend those points, but they're not doing it. Why is that?
Well, they're blaming Nathan for being horrible, but in actual fact, it's because every point that they bring up can be destroyed very quickly if once you realize what they're getting at, because they'll do it very clever. They'll do it very cleverly, and they'll try and make it so it's a bit vague what they're getting at. So you've got to try and guess where they're going with it. But once you realize where they're going, it can be pulled down in a few minutes when you realize where their destination is. But ultimately, they can't prove their assertions are true. And a lot of it's based on presuppositional science, which isn't even science in the first place and has no evidence for.
Yeah, it's down to weak arguments, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah. But you're getting the blame for it for being like negative or bad or muty or whatever. I mean, you can pick the excuse, but the bottom line is every argument that they've brought to the table has been destroyed, and we're all sat here with the heads of decapitated ballers lining the room like trophies. You got Rumpus in one corner, you got Paul Voigt in another corner. Let's remember that Paul Voigt claims he's got evidence of a molten iron core. It's not true. If he did, he'd be in here and he'd be proving that we were all morons. But he can't because there is no evidence of a molten iron core. The best that they've got is an 8-mile hole, and that's it.
Yeah, and then they say flat Earth equals no evidence. I mean, flat Earth is not being taught in schools and college. Astronomy classes has not been given with flat Earth examples. Now they're teaching a globe with no scientific evidence. That's the issue. Flat Earth, okay, flat Earth, we're figuring it out. But the globe Earth without evidence being taught in schools, that's a problem.
What? Yeah, I mean, I've been asking for weeks and weeks and weeks about the distance to the sun. And what I'm going to ask today is if you're out there and you're in the mood for doing a little bit of research, not because I can't do it or because I've not tried it, more because there are so many different answers to the question who was the person that got the distance to the sun. Because it should be the case that, for example, if Christopher Columbus discovered America, even though there were Indians there before he got there, but if Christopher Columbus is being credited as the guy that discovered America, then there should be one particular citation in history. If the whole body of science knows this kind of stuff and accepts that we live on a sphere, blah, 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 that should be credited to one person, in one individual, right? Because it must have been one person or maybe a group of people at the same period in doing the same job. But what really, I'd like to show people that there's like numerous different citations for different people that are meant to have claimed to have measured the distance to the sun. Because I know of at least 3. And basically, it's not a credible position to be in if you're going to argue that the whole body of science and then come up with different answers for a simple question. I mean, I'm really at the point where I feel as though there is no actual answer to the question, what is the distance? What is the distance to the sun and how do you know it? Because it should be one person. That one guy should have done it, and it should have been. And if it's not one guy, there should be a history of how they've narrowed it down and got it more and more accurate. But we don't find that when you look for it. You find that there's numerous citations of it, and there is not a consensus over who got the distance to the sun. Well, if science can't all agree on who did it, when they did it, and how they did it, then what chance has the education department of the UK, for example, got of teaching the children anything? Because if science itself can't give you an accurate answer and a conclusive or a consensus answer for the one bloke that did it at some point in history, then what chances, how is it considered to be truth, fact? You know what I mean? So if anybody knows or has done research on the distance to the sun and come up with an answer and who did it and when, let us know, because I want to really highlight how contradictory it is. there's numerous citations for it, and it's difficult to know what is supposed to be true.
Yeah, listen to one of the comments in the chat as the globe arguments. It is laughable to me. It says there's one guy called Edward. He say because the light these stars give off inevitably reaches us. It takes millions of years, but once it does, we can see it. So the
Yes.
light of the stars give off inevitably reaches us. It takes millions of years, but once it does, we can see it. Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Need any proof of our with that bullshit?
Bullshit.
In our you trust. If you think the stars are millions of miles away, it's all coming back to our. So in our you trust, Globehead.
If you have a look in the chat, I've just posted up an old meme that used to go around that lists all the different people who they've guessed, obviously using R, but the range of what they got is from 3 million miles, Copernicus, right the way up to Maya, 104 million miles.
Yeah, what's interesting is neither Christine Huygens or what's the other guy called? Cassini. Yeah, Huygens and Cassini are not even in that list.
No.
So I've heard of Copernicus, I've heard of Tycho Brahe, I've heard of Kepler. Although Kepler didn't, as far as I know, Kepler didn't get a distance. Kepler's law third. Well, mind you, we might have done on a different.
He was Tycho's right-hand man, wasn't he? He was his assistant.
But as far as I'm aware, I'm not aware that he actually quantified it. I'm aware that he gave the second law on Kepler's third law on interplanetary motion gave AU, which was like a relative term, but I wasn't aware that he even quantified it. I've seen that accreditation given elsewhere, but I'm not familiar with Martin. I'm not familiar with. Is that Enik?
Enik.
Maya or R Ball. I'm not familiar with any of them.
R Ball.
What's the name? How's it spelled?
Can someone share it? I don't want to share it just yet.
I can share it.
I've got it up on screen for the audience. You can't see it in the Hangout, but I've just brought it up on a fresh tab.
It was an old flat Earth meme that went round. Someone had done exactly that, researched who'd done it when. But it's all guesswork, isn't it?
You having a laugh? R Ball.
Yeah. R Ball.
R Ball.
It does seem to be a joke.
Yeah, I don't know if someone's gone a bit overboard with the duping delight on that one.
Yeah. But the point's valid though. You can if you're going to assume that Venus is the same size as Earth, then you're going to get one scale. But if you assume that Jupiter's the same size as Earth, you're going to get a totally different scale. If you're going to assume that like Mercury, same size as Earth, then you're going to get a different scale. So, well, which one's right? And why go with Venus? Why make any assumptions at all? And why not just measure it? And the answer, of course, is they can't. They need to know an actual size or a distance to get the rest of the scale, but they don't have any. So again, it's a valid question. And why is science giving so many different answers? It's ridiculous to claim that the whole body of science tells you this, or a particular aspect of heliocentricity. But when you actually look into it, you get numerous different answers for it. Why is it not one continuous, reliable, credible citation for one guy? Why is it seems to be deliberately obfuscated to confuse?
It's like it's been pushed out. Oh, it didn't work. Pushed out even more.
And the further away it gets, the bigger it has to get. And basically, there's no proof or evidence that any of it is right. I mean, if you look at it out the window, right, the fact that you can see the moon and the craters of the moon in focus with your own human eye, that tells me that it's close. Because I know that I can't read a number plate on a car too far away when it gets too small. But it's pretty big and it's pretty close to us, and that's the way it appears. So I wouldn't say, for me, if somebody said, guess the distance to the moon, well, it could be anywhere, couldn't it? It could be 100,000 miles, but I wouldn't guess 240,000 miles. You have to have some kind of scale, some kind of like parameter, but I don't know what the parameter is, and that's the reason why nobody seems to be getting the reliable answer.
Yeah, I mean, they've proved themselves wrong, though. You know that. Gravity has proved the dimensions of the universe wrong.
But that would mean proving gravity to be a thing. What gravity are you referring to?
Well, this would bring me on to my point. Is there any chance I can do a 5-minute presentation?
Definitely.
Not more on going down the evidence line, but just doing a recap on history on what actual gravity has caused.
Absolutely.
Because at the moment in time, it's 95% fudged the whole globe heliocentric model to work.
Yeah. Do you want to take 5 minutes? If the rest of you can pop yourselves on mute.
Yeah, if I can. You'll have to bear with me though, because I am just woke up from a hangover. Yesterday it was my 40th birthday. I was out on the racks.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I've been putting this together over the past couple of days because I've had a couple of days off work, and I was just like, this is not to prove gravity. However, having gravity benefits the flat Earth.
I see. So
I agree.
So we'll call it a brief
Hooray for gravity.
But it's leaning upon all of their physicists and cosmologists and all of their findings where gravity's been used, whether Einstein or Newton, and
I wouldn't say
they
used.
failed.
I'd say abused.
Arwin, can you just pop yourself on mute? I'll give it an introduction. So this is going to be 5 minutes of a brief history of gravity by Event Horizon. Take it away. Hopefully uninterrupted.
It's Gleam. Shh.
What, sorry?
Gleam. It's not Event Horizon.
Oh, is it not? It's my bad, Glenn.
No,
sorry.
Should I share? Should I share now?
Yes, please.
Yeah, there we go. So if I do that, let me know if everyone can see dark to light.
Yes.
Just click hide. Just click hide on the little box at the bottom. There we go. Brilliant. In your own time.
Okay, so yeah, I'll try and take it slow. I'm a normal fast chatter. But first I want to put across something that applies to both globe earthers and flat earthers alike. I've made up something, and it's just more of a joke, but it's called the flock mock paradox. It's where people love to gang up on people and literally just tell them something that they don't know, even though they don't know it themselves. So here's a little summit. Can you all see that?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, it's just basically on one side of the argument, a flat earther saying, I think the Earth's flat, as this is all we observe, measure from our reference frame. Surveyors mostly use plane trigonometry, so they neglect the curve. This is evidence. Globe Earth comes along and says, don't be ridiculous. You're working on such a small scale. When you work on much larger scales, surveyors must account for the curvature or the maths are incorrect. So the Earth is definitely a sphere. Next, flip the argument, and globe earthers say, I think the Earth is a sphere because of this thing called gravity. We can observe it, measure it on a local basis, and we know that gravity forms spherical shaped planets. So we can test it, we know it exists, it backs a claim, and then the flat earther says the opposite. Don't be ridiculous. That's only on the local scale. When you do it on a much massive, larger universal scale, gravity fails by a factor of 10. And that's why they need dark matter and dark energy to fudge it. Okay, so there's me. I'm right on the middle of the fence where I love the work that flat earthers do to prove it, and I hate the fact that globe earthers go around pretending that their model actually works when it doesn't. Completely. So getting through it is just a quick recap on what's happened in history, but I'm going to go through formation of matter. It's loads of topics that have been discussed on the show ages. So formation of matter, mass, density, a field, the fields of the Earth, fields relationships, failures of gravity, and then connect this all to religion and God, and then conclude. So just to go through it, I think personally this is my own thing, and I'll present some science later to back it all up, but gravity is electrostatic. Okay, and I also think that the background electrostatic potential energy field, 0-point energy field, is a fluid, or considered a fluid medium, which we're all in. So it's like a sea, and we're all in the sea of this energy field medium. Not only that, it's kind of like quantum field theory, where matter itself is not physical matter. It's a nested hierarchy of fields. So you obviously all know the particle wave duality, blah blah blah. I won't go into it. Yeah, and obviously all physical matter and energy seeks the path of least resistance to achieve its equilibrium when it's taken out of equilibrium in a state of entropy. All the current theories of gravity confirm the dimensions of the universe incorrect, and therefore a flat Earth then becomes a viable option. And
Yes.
God itself, God in all religions, is the personification of this energy field that creates everything.
Meh.
Right? So first formation of matter, I don't know anyone knew, or if everyone knew this, but Democritus was a flat earther, and he was the first one to propose that there was such things as atoms, lots of tiny little balls building up, and he was actually a flat earther. He's depicted on a lot of old artwork as laughing at a globe, because he was coupled with another philosopher who thought it was a globe, and he was always laughing at him, saying, "Are you sure, you idiot?" Yeah. So either way, the common simplified version of what we understand today is that classical mechanics accepts that these atoms are physical building blocks for elements, and quantum mechanics considers that state of duality, that in between the two, or in quintessence, it's also a nested field, like what I was just saying. Particles don't exist, they are just a point source in the energy field. Okay. Formation of mass. So for things to stick together locally in chemistry is known, well, sorry, the top bit is just to say that modern globe science physicists thinks it's this Higgs field, which is the energy field that created the fundamental building blocks. But locally, it's all known as chemical bonding, which is electrostatic repulsion and attraction, which grabs in different particles to create elements. Also, that happens, as a side note, is spontaneous creation. So when things collide, excessive energy is created, let's say, which accounts for kind of like spontaneous creation, something from nothing, which they all know about. So density, which is all the flat earth argument, which is buoyancy and density. I fully support that, but I also support that there must be a medium for this to happen in, even in a vacuum. They already say, yeah, there's vacuum energy, which you can't shield against. So all the elements stick together, they create all these 92 elements, all the molecules stick together, create all these 92 elements. The periodic table is all sorted by density as well as electric charge. I don't know whether everyone knew that, but this one is, put it that way. There are versions of it, but obviously then there is a order of magnitude of this density. So you've got very dense at the bottom, very less dense at the top, let's say. Right? So this one will take one or 2 minutes, but I'm just going to skip through this so I can provide all the backup paperwork that confirms everything I'm putting here. But you've got Newton assumed gravity was connected to this divine electric field, which he called God. Basically, he considered God, because obviously he was religious. But he couldn't connect it to an electrical field because electrical theory hadn't really been developed then. And also, he considered it far too weak. Now, it's a massive point, in as much as making the mistake of choosing a spherical surface for charge or a flat surface. A flat surface is known to distribute the charge across the surface and build up on the edges. A sphere will equally distribute the charge all over.
Hold on. I want to break in for a moment. I really do. Because, yeah, I've heard this theory, and it's really good and extensive, and I like it, and I like your defense of gravity. Although I do see Cavendish in there, so it comes kind of doubtful, because I'm
only using Cavendish
to leave out mass attracting mass.
Arwen, it's a
but
brief
also the electrostatic.
Arwen,
I want to talk about the.
Arwen, it's not debate. It's a brief history of this. He's not presenting this as though he
Cavendish,
agrees. Or...
me personally, I don't believe the Cavendish experiment proves what they think it proves. It wasn't even to prove gravity; it was to prove density. It's completely off topic, and it wasn't even ascribed to gravity until 75 years after he died by some unknown physicist.
Yes,
it's absolute tosh. But
that was Newton, right?
No, that was Cavendish.
Cavendish too. Oh shit!
No, so Newton, 1600s. There's gravity, put it straight in as a law of gravity because he was head of the Royal Society. And then 200 years later, Cavendish done this experiment called weighing the world, considering out local density and then extrapolating on a sphere to actually find out what the complete density of Earth is and then weigh it to a kilogram mass.
Did you say that Newton published before he died? Because that didn't happen. The gravity theory was actually published after his death, against his will.
Newton, as far as I'm aware, did discuss gravity, but he left a page blank in all his writings to say there's more to this. So he definitely wrote about gravity, about gravitation. I've got a couple of citations from his writings actually confirming that he says, I believe this gravitational force is connected to the divine field of ether, basically, or God.
Okay,
that's
something else as recognizing mass being attracted by mass.
Yeah,
Earth being a ball.
Me personally, I wouldn't even zone it down mass attracting mass. I would say mass has an influence with the medium. That's how I put it.
Yeah, it's called attraction. And that's what it's supposed to be doing.
And repulsion. This
repulsion?
Gets to, yes. And this is why the globe Earth theory needs anti-gravity, i.e. dark energy, to push against this gravitational force to equal it out in order to make it match observations.
What? That is so extremely convoluted. I can't even...
That is theirs.
Get the big picture of that.
Oh God, Alwyn!
If I skip through this, this is probably the biggest bit of the whole 12 slides. All the rest will be quick flickers.
Can you let him get through the presentation, Alwyn? Afterwards, if you want to debate
come on.
So I'm just trying to establish that we know that there's a field there, or we know that there's something there. And from a globe Earth aspect, it's gravity. There is definitely gravity. From a flat Earth aspect, you must say that there is ether because obviously, well, not must say, but a lot of flat Earthers believe in ether theory because it disproves the motion of Earth through the Michelson-Morley experiment. But let me skip anyway. So Michelson-Morley experiment, obviously, done the ether experiment, and a lot of misconception with a null experiment. The null experiment was, no, they didn't find the required velocity from the fringe shift. It wasn't, no, we didn't find ether, because there was a small, tiny background detection of drift. So it was not a null result. It was a non-null positive result, but not the required one for what they expected of a spin of the Earth. Anyway, Einstein removed that ether, replaced it, photoelectric effect, photon, and still needed to explain in maths its parallel transport of how you can unbend space-time for the bending of space-time. So he needed properties of space and come up with superfluid vacuum theory, which I've heard on the show loads. It's helium-4, basically, or the Einstein-Bose condensate. So they're proposing, yes, it does exist. Once ether's been removed, you've got masses of Nobel Prize winning physicists saying Einstein is wrong. His bending in space-time is total nonsense. And the prime two, in my eyes, are Louis Essen and Ernst Mach, or Mark. Louis Essen was the first guy to invent the atomic clock and the first guy to accurately measure the speed of light. He wrote papers against Einstein saying, you're talking a load of rubbish. But going through, obviously, Michelson, Robert Millikan, Ernst Rutherford, nuclear physics, Herbert Ives, all of them were completely against this bending in space-time, and all were in support of ether. So this is one key point which matches up with the first. Tesla assumed he'd be able to extract a lot of electrical energy and transfer that either underground or through the sky. He achieved it mathematically using a globe, but in reality, when it come round to it, it didn't produce as much energy as he could get free energy. So that's just one plus on the flat earther side. To balance out, as we're talking about equilibriums and density and electricity as a fluid, Robert Millikan done his oil drop experiment, which it discovered the elementary charge, but what it actually did is 2 charge plates drop in little tiny fragment droplets of oil through it, and by adding charge to the system, he could levitate oil droplets and adding more charge, shoot them upwards. So it's kind of like a counterbalance once you account for ether. So George's, is it Lemaitre, whatever his name is, the Big Bang guy, he thought of all of space as a fluid. So all I'm trying to get across is that there is a 0 point energy throughout the whole universe, which has a creational effect, which also has a gravitational effect, not gravity. But also Boyd Bushman, I don't know whether everyone's seen that. He does drop tests, you know, like they do in a vacuum as standard, but he does it in Lockheed Skunk Works, just in the normal air. And he's dropping 2 bowling balls of equal mass. One's got 2 massive neodymium magnets at opposite poles. So they're creating a big supermassive field, and he's dropping them, and every single time the magnets are dropping afterwards. So they're causing a resistance. There is a resistance beyond air, put it that way. So that is the big bit out of the way. So Earth has an electrostatic field. Richard Feynman done a lecture on this, and that's where I've got the left drawing from. The right drawing is just nicked off the internet to show you how the layers work. And it's from ground, which is the surface of Earth, up to 31 miles, and every meter in height exceeds or adds 100 to 150 volts of potential energy. So this is not actual charge, this is potential. Potential cannot be shielded, as you see in the old Cavendish things. Oh yeah, it can't be electrostatics. I'm shielding it with a Faraday cage. You can't shield potential, especially gradients. So up from the surface upwards is positive, down every meter down underneath Earth is negative. And that's just a relative thing that man's put on that.
Sorry, let me just interrupt a sec. Just insert a bookmark at what you just said there about the potential energy, and we'll come back to it at the end. So if I don't forget, just remind me potential energy at the end.
I have a pen and paper, old school.
Yeah, just write down footnote potential energy, and then we'll come back to it at the end.
Yeah, cool.
I am totally triggered by all of these statements, but whatever.
I was looking to trigger you. Are we in gravity? I do want some feedback on this, and that's one reason why I do want to present it to you, Arwin, as well as everyone else. But anyway, getting to it. So there is definitely a field, electrostatic field, coming off of Earth, whether it's flat or spherical. And just as a side note, air pressure becomes 0.1% of the surface value at exactly the same altitude as the field of electric becomes 0.1%. I can't say that's causality, but I'm just saying that there is a suggested relationship between gravity holding in air pressure gradient, so on.
I disagree.
Okay.
Strongly disagree.
Okay.
Electrostatics is a very specific type of charge.
It's charge.
Yeah,
I'm not talking charge. Seriously, I'm confusing this up, Arwin, calling it electrostatics when I should just be talking about energy, 0 point energy. But I think just calling it electrostatics is a bit more welcoming. I know it sounds weird,
but that's the
saying something
effect.
it's
That's
not.
the effect it's ascribed to, and it's not. It can't be, because electrostatic attraction is very chaotic, and it's not. It is measurable, very much so, and yeah,
Okay,
you
okay,
can't prove.
I'll proceed, but
Gravity is constant. It's constant. That's the whole thing about it.
so is
and
the
yeah, you can-
potential field.
It can be
can we just wait till the
electrostatics.
end?
It doesn't
Can't-
have the
for
same
God's sake, can't we just
category of
debate it at
properties.
the end of his presentation? Just write down your notes and wait till
Yeah,
the end.
I do take that
It was there.
100% on board, and Arwin is exactly right for me calling it electrostatics. However, it brings me beautifully onto this slide, which is where I get my belief from it.
Okay.
It's
Sure. Yeah, believe. Fine.
Yep, it's my belief. It's definitely a belief. I'm not going to say to you, you've got to follow this, because there
Alright.
is flaws. Definitely, there's got to be. But anyway, obviously, gravity and the electrostatic field are alike, have similarities and also differences. But the differences, again, are the likes of electrostatic pulls and repels, and gravity only pulls. Well, that's nonsense if you need dark energy in the system. That is the repulsive.
No,
So
hold on. No, it doesn't pull. That's only the gravitational pull theory.
Arwin, this is the
no, it's a
third
force
time.
displacement.
Arwin,
It's-
he's
okay,
made this
yep, no,
presentation.
I
All
agree
you've
with
got to
that.
do
In the
is
general
wait till he's
consensus
finished.
of Newtonian gravity, the particle force arising from the mass, that is pulling towards the center of the Earth.
yeah, that's
on
what
a
it's supposed to
sphere.
be. Indeed.
Right,
Yeah.
Arwin, you've
But
turned this
in-
into the
in
most
speech mark.
disjointed presentation we've had on the show. Just
It's
let
okay.
him get to
It's
the
okay.
end and
No,
then
no,
debate
well-
it.
Dude, I'm just interacting here.
Yeah, I've
He is
specifically
right.
asked,
He is right.
please
I will say
don't
he is right. With
interact.
me calling it electrostatics, it's off throwing, because that implies charge, and it isn't. It's electrostatic charge happens when you charge something or run something with motion in through a field of potential. And that's what creates the charge. I'm more talking the field of potential, but there's thousands of names for it. The ether, the ZPE, 0 point energy. I just like calling the whole thing electrostatics, because I do believe the whole system is a system of energy fields, a hierarchy, nested energy fields. All matter, all light, EM spectrum is just basically extended to be matter, as well as what we already know.
You think light is matter?
Who cares? He's in the middle of a presentation.
Anyway, I'm nearly at the end. Either way, this is the core document. That, put it this way, this is I'll be completely open. It's published in what's known as the Galilean Electrodynamics. It's an offshoot publication for electrics out of the mainstream. Okay, so the guy who actually wrote this paper was personal friends with the guy who ran the publication, and he published it, whereas mainstream science wouldn't publish this. Okay, but to add credibility to him, this guy, Morton F. Spears, he's basically a PhD from MIT on electrical engineering. He was a commander of a nuclear sub, was in the Navy, and an atomic officer for the Northeast of United States. He then, when he retired from the Navy, set up a company called Spears Association, and he then sold his company to Lockheed. And when he retired, he worked on a theory that gravity is electrostatic. This is just one paper in a 100-page theory that he's got at the same address there, and I can share this document as well. I've got no holdings back on it. But this guy I've looked into very deep, and this is a core of my belief, is that gravity that they're measuring, that everyone's saying, yeah, that's gravity, is just electrostatics or background energy. Okay, so either way, what he done is he just calculated, this is not an actual physical experiment, but he calculated the electrostatic attraction between two hydrogen atoms a meter apart, and he come up to an almost identical value to big G. So I can share that paper with you as well. So the failures of gravity. Oh, anyone?
That's fascinating. I never heard of that.
Okay, just to go back, it's only a 3-page paper, which, as I say, forms part. He does a lot on permittivity and permittivity, however you say it. But he's done a lot of work on this whole theory. He's got a whole complete theory on the electric universe, let's say. But for some reason, the electric universe theory, I've never heard of them mention this guy. But I've researched him and he's legit. His actual daughter works for Iowa State and she publishes all his papers. And the link's up there. If you just search for Morton Spears electrostatic gravity, he'll pop up straight away. And she's like a research professor. So she's definitely got her own dad right. But either way, we are going on to the failures of gravity. And in my personal opinion, this failure of gravity calculates their sun at 93 million miles. If you remove their failures of gravity, the sun then becomes 3,200 miles away. Now, I fully understand that there's no distance to the sun, but I'm just saying that's the outcome of when you get the total observable universe, remove all of their fudges, and then it comes to a real small and local dimension universe. So galaxy rotation curve problem, I don't know whether anyone's heard of this. It's a bit difficult to get your head around to start with, but it's real simple. It's like scale invariance, if anyone's seen Jaron's video on that. What it is they're using Newton's and Einstein's gravity to detect how fast a spiraling galaxy is turning. And what they're getting is a mismatch of the velocity of how it spins on the inside, like with a record player, than there is on the outside. And it's out by a factor of 10. So means two things, one of two things in my head. A, there is such a thing as this dark matter that we've been searching for 90 odd years, not found a single thing, or they've got the measurements wrong. And that's simply it. If you draw that in, then the measurements calculate, and that spin of that galaxy is supposed to be going the right speed. It's just that it's so far out now that they pushed that sun out, pushed the universe out, expanded it, Hubble expanded it, cosmological constant expanded it, and now it's so far out that they have to patch it all back up again. That's my personal opinion. And then from the dark matter, Vera Rubin done extensive work in the 50s. From that dark matter, Lawrence Krauss talks about it was his idea originally, but he didn't even win the Nobel Prize for dark energy. And they basically said, right, all the visible matter plus all this dark, mysterious, godlike matter, put that all together, how much energy is there needed to get it to zero, to get it all to balance out? And they found it's the worst catastrophe in the whole of physics. It was 10 to the 120 wrong, and therefore they had to invent another energy or another mysterious thing, which now constitutes 69% of their model. So as you see in the top right hand corner there, 5%, that 5% normal matter is all we can see. All the rest of it is made up. Basically made up because of wrong calculations. The sums are wrong. Of that 5%, only 0.5% are stars and planets. The 4.5% is just hydrogen gas spread out. So 0.5% of their model is right. And I think this is a massive trick that flat earthers haven't got onto, because this is their data. This is them proving themselves wrong, and their model is wrong. And they think, oh no, there is this dark stuff. We'll just patch it up. There definitely exists. 90 years later, billions in funding, CERN, everywhere, all particle accelerators, not found a smidgen of evidence. So it's them that have proved themselves wrong. So now connecting this all to religion, I'm going to skip through this bit because I'm anti-religious. I think that just everyone's talking about the same thing, whether you are religious or not religious, either way. So,
well, do you have to? Can you? I mean, you've obviously gone to some effort to formulate this. Can you not go through it anyway?
Yeah. I'm going to go through it, but I'm just not going to go into as depth because I prefer the scientific side.
Dark matter is just all the niggers in the universe.
No need, P.
Yeah, I resent that. But either way, so obviously some matching up things that I believe that religion was science before science. It's just one long extending religion, because all science is just saying we're going to document stuff now. And obviously this field that I've been talking about, you can't document it. Well, you can, because you obviously see it, or it has an effect on your experiments. But
you can deduce it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah, that's how I do it.
Yeah. So either way, just matching up things like what religious people would say and what the Bibles say, their cliche statements, versus what scientific proof there is connecting the statement that I think God is electric. It's just their description of electric. Almighty great power in the sky, lightning and thunder, obviously, the life giver. Nothing can survive without bioelectricity, whether fish, whether mammal, whatever. Repent your sins. How I believe it is the whole thread of you've got a soul, which is your bioelectricity. If you charge that up all your life really positive, you're going to go up into the heaven with all the other positive energy, i.e. the Van Allen belts and where the sun is. Or if you charge it up negative, you're going to go down to the hell, which is, as I said, with that relative where ground is zero, you're going to go down to all the negative. And then
go back in the dirt.
Yeah, exactly that. And then the flip side of that, obviously your matter, your body will go into the dirt anyway, or get burnt, however you want. But it's the spirit, the soul, let's say, the all elusive soul. After you die, that escapes, that energy escapes. And if you've done good and you've got a positive spirit, you go up. If you've done bad and you've got a negative, but it also accounts for you can repent for your sins, meaning you could do really bad all your life and then just charge your soul up right at the last bit like Scrooge did, and he'll be going to heaven. You know what I'm saying? So it's there's so much relating in my mind how I'm connecting that to them saying, yeah, this is how it works. Lightbringer, obviously, EM spectrum, something from nothing, the pair production I was talking about earlier, excess energy created off of collisions and interactions, let's say. Source of all creation, they think it's this Higgs field. I personally believe in ether, this all-encompassing energy field. Instructions of creation, DNA is actually charged particles linking. The creator of all living things, chemical bonding process, bringing things together, and the instructions for what does what, and heaven and hell. And I put up a couple of things there. I don't know whether anyone's looked into Birkeland currents or magnetic rope connecting the sun to Earth. NASA's had to say, yeah, we've detected it now. But they've actually, Kristen Birkeland, which was James Van Allen's right-hand man, he studied the magnetic fields up at the northern lights and actually documented them and whatnot, and went through and actually postulated that the sun and all planets are interconnected by tubes of electric or tubes of magnetism transferring energy. And then obviously beneath us, you've got telluric currents, which are similar but the opposite, underneath, running through massive charged up, negatively charged, or positive in a negative medium. Okay, so my conclusions out of all my research that I've been doing this 5 years, looking into flat Earth and comparing and seeing all the failings of the globe Earth, I think gravity is electrostatic. I don't know if anyone's aware, but gravity in the globe Earth model creates everything flat anyway. Yeah, the universe is flat. It's a hierarchy of flatness. You got the universe. All galaxies are created flat. You only get a spherical or misshapen galaxy when two flat ones collide. Milky Way's flat. The solar system's flat. All it's a nested flat disk system. But all of the main guys, Newton, Faraday, Maxwell, Tesla, Einstein, they all had issues with their calculations, and their common denominator in my mind was that they selected a globe as a sphere where the electric will overpower this mysterious gravity force, whereas if they would have selected a flat Earth model, it would have been electric all the way through, and then that obviously pulls in all the universe, corrects all their errors. Not, I'm saying that flippantly, I've got no evidence of that. But modern, as I said there, it's only 0.5% we can account for in the globe Earth model, or they can account for in the globe Earth model. And that little bit on the right hand side is just to say that depending, if you've got a spear, not a sphere, you charge that up and the electricity builds up just above the point or on the tip. So as you get less and less curve, it holds less and less charge, and therefore this background energy is basically the flat Earth's electrostatic field, which allows us this. It's a sea of energy. That's how I like to see it, because I like it being explained as a fluid, because it works exactly like that. Current and electricity and all that lot is explained as a fluid. It's exactly the same of how density and buoyancy work. Exactly the same. So I think that's it. Yeah, end of presentation.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you hated the show, then you know exactly what to do. But if you liked it, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you have not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!